Picture this: America's most beloved sitcom, the show that made millions laugh until their sides hurt, harbored secrets that would shock even its most devoted fans. What if I told you that behind Ethel Mertz's infectious laughter and Lucy Ricardo's zany schemes lay a world of bitter rivalries, crushing professional pressure and personal battles that nearly broke the woman who brought Ethel to life? Imagine walking onto the set of I Love Lucy, expecting the warmth and camaraderie you saw on screen, only to discover that the real drama was happening between takes. Vivian Vance didn't just play a character on television's most iconic show. She survived an experience that would forever change how we understand the golden age of TV comedy. The truths she revealed in her later years paint a radically different picture of what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling. From the moment Vivian stepped onto that Desilu Productions soundstage in 1951, she entered a world where nothing was quite as it seemed. The woman who would become America's favorite neighbor was about to discover that television magic came with a price far steeper than anyone could have imagined. Behind those perfectly timed laughs and seemingly effortless chemistry lay years of tension, sacrifice, and professional battles that would have broken lesser performers. The first shocking revelation? The marriage that made America laugh was built on genuine animosity that lasted for years. When Vivian learned she'd be playing opposite William Frawley as her on-screen husband, Fred Mertz, she made what seemed like an innocent observation about their 20-year age gap. Picture a young, vibrant actress being told she'd be married to a man old enough to be her father. Her comment about how unlikely it would be for a woman her age to marry someone so much older wasn't meant as cruelty, it was simple honesty. But Frawley, a man known throughout Hollywood for his explosive temper and thin skin, took it as a personal attack he would carry like a grudge for the entire run of the show. From that moment forward, their relationship was poisoned. This wasn't just professional disagreement. This was personal dislike that had to be masked every single day they worked together. What followed was something unprecedented in television history. Years of professional performance masking personal coldness so intense that cast and crew could feel the tension in the air. Every scene you watched of Fred and Ethel's bickering carried an undertone of real animosity. The sharp-tongued exchanges between their characters weren't just acting. They were channeling genuine irritation into comedy gold. Vivian and Frawley became masters of their craft precisely because they had to be. Their personal dislike for each other had to be transformed into entertainment, night after night, take after take. The irony was delicious and tragic. Their real-life friction added an authenticity to their on-screen dynamic that audiences found irresistibly funny. America was laughing at a marriage built on actual contempt, and they had no idea. But Frawley wasn't Vivian's only challenge. In many ways, he wasn't even her biggest one. Working alongside Lucille Ball meant matching the energy and precision of a comedic genius who demanded absolute perfection in every gesture, every line delivery, every perfectly timed pratfall. Lucille wasn't just the star, she was a creative hurricane whose vision shaped every aspect of the show, from camera angles to costume choices to the way a simple double take was performed. For Vivian, this meant living in a constant state of creative pressure that few actors have ever experienced. She had to keep pace with someone whose talent seemed limitless and whose standards were impossibly high. Every day brought new challenges as Lucille pushed everyone around her to reach higher levels of performance. While this made the show brilliant, it also made working on it exhausting. The pressure was unlike anything Vivian had experienced in her years of stage work. Television demanded a different kind of precision, one that was permanent. In theater, if you had an off night, tomorrow brought a chance to do better. But in television, every moment was captured forever. While Lucy got to be wild and unpredictable, exploring every facet of physical comedy and verbal wit, Ethel often served as the grounding force, the straight woman who had to make Lucy's chaos seem believable and relatable. This wasn't always the most glamorous position, and there were moments when Vivian felt like she was disappearing into the background of her own career. Watching Lucille command every scene with magnetic presence, Vivian sometimes wondered if audiences even noticed her contributions. The doubt was crushing for someone who had worked so hard to establish herself as a performer. Yet through this professional intensity, something remarkable happened. Vivian began to understand that her role as Ethel was far more crucial than it initially appeared. She wasn't just reacting to Lucy's antics, she was anchoring them, giving them weight and believability. Without Ethel's grounded responses, Lucy's wild schemes would have seemed cartoonish instead of charmingly relatable. In episodes where Ethel broke free from her typical role, moments where she got to be scheming or silly or surprisingly wise, Vivian seized every opportunity to showcase her own comedic brilliance. These scenes proved she was far more than just Lucy's sidekick. She was a performer capable of carrying storylines on her own considerable talents. The relationship between Vivian and Lucille evolved from professional tension to genuine friendship, but the journey wasn't smooth. Lucille's larger-than-life personality dominated every room she entered, and Vivian had to find her own space within that powerful orbit. The process was like learning to be yourself while standing next to a supernova. Challenging, sometimes overwhelming, but ultimately transformative. Through it all, Lucille was teaching Vivian lessons about performance and professionalism that she couldn't have learned anywhere else. Working with someone of Lucille's caliber meant constantly raising your own game, pushing past comfortable limits to discover what you were truly capable of achieving. Perhaps most shocking of all were the behind-the-scenes controls that governed every aspect of Vivian's appearance and behavior. Restrictions so detailed they bordered on the ridiculous. Desilu Productions didn't just manage the show, they managed the people in it with military precision. Vivian was given specific weight requirements designed to maintain visual contrast with the slimmer Lucille Ball. She had to weigh herself regularly and report the results like an athlete preparing for competition. She was required to dress in deliberately dowdy, unflattering costumes that made her look years older than she actually was. Her makeup was applied to create the impression of a frumpy housewife, complete with harsh lighting designed to emphasize any imperfections. These weren't artistic choices made to serve character development. They were calculated decisions to ensure Ethel remained the less attractive neighbor, forever in Lucy's shadow, visually and comedically. The woman America saw as frumpy Ethel Mertz was actually vibrant, stylish, and youthful off-camera. Friends who knew Vivian personally were often shocked by the transformation the show required. She had to suppress her natural beauty and personal style to fit into a character that served the show's comedic needs, creating a strange double life where her public persona was almost the opposite of who she really was. Vivian understood the reasoning behind these restrictions. The visual comedy depended on clear contrast between characters, but she chafed against requirements that felt deeply personal and often humiliating. Imagine being told by your employer that you need to look worse, to be less attractive, to diminish yourself so others can shine brighter. The psychological impact of such demands was profound and lasting. The technical demands of the show added yet another layer of pressure that audiences never saw. I Love Lucy was groundbreaking in its use of multiple cameras and film instead of live broadcast, innovations that required entirely new approaches to performance and timing. But this technical innovation came with intense rehearsal schedules that pushed everyone to their limits. Every episode required days of grueling preparation, with rehearsals stretching late into the night as the cast perfected their timing down to the split second. Physical comedy had to be precisely choreographed. Every slip, every fall, every perfectly timed entrance had to be rehearsed until it became second nature. The margin for error was virtually non-existent. Performing for that live studio audience created an electric atmosphere that Vivian both loved and feared. The immediate feedback, laughter or deathly silence, determined whether a scene succeeded or failed in real time. There was no safety net, no opportunity for multiple takes to find the perfect comedic moment. The energy, timing, and chemistry had to be perfect the first time, every time. Vivian felt the weight of that responsibility in every performance. She knew that hundreds of people in the studio audience were watching, that millions more would eventually see whatever they captured that night. The pressure was enormous, but it also created a kind of performance high that kept her coming back, despite all the challenges. The success of the show brought Vivian fame and financial security, but it also created a professional prison she couldn't escape. As I Love Lucy became a cultural phenomenon that defined American television comedy, Vivian found herself forever identified with Ethel Mertz in ways that were both blessing and curse. Casting directors couldn't see past the character to recognize her range as an actress. When she auditioned for dramatic roles, they saw Ethel. When she tried for different types of comedy, they wanted more Ethel. Opportunities for diverse roles became increasingly rare as Hollywood typecast her into the persona she'd created so convincingly that it overshadowed everything else about her as a performer. This typecasting was particularly frustrating because Vivian had an extensive theater background that proved her versatility. She could do drama, she could do different styles of comedy, she could sing and dance. But none of that mattered once she became Ethel Mertz. The success that should have opened doors instead seemed to close them, limiting her to variations on the character that had made her famous. The irony was heartbreaking. Her greatest professional achievement became the thing that prevented her from achieving anything else. She was grateful for the role that made her a household name, but she yearned for opportunities to show other facets of her talent, to prove she was more than just Lucy's neighbor. Despite professional frustrations and the daily challenges of working under such intense conditions, some of Vivian's most cherished memories came from the relationships forged during those turbulent years. Her friendship with Lucille deepened far beyond their professional partnership, creating a bond that would sustain them both through personal and professional difficulties. When Lucille and Desi Arnaz started their family, Vivian became like an aunt to their children, spending weekends and holidays with the family away from the studio. She was there for birthday parties and family gatherings, becoming part of their inner circle in ways that had nothing to do with the show that brought them together. During Lucille's personal struggles, including the painful breakdown of her marriage to Desi, a relationship that America thought was perfect, Vivian was one of the few people Lucille truly trusted with her deepest fears and disappointments. Their bond transcended the professional relationship that created it, lasting until Vivian's death in 1979. Lucille often credited Vivian with being a stabilizing influence during her most difficult moments, someone who could provide perspective and support without judgment. In an industry known for its shallow relationships and competitive atmosphere, their friendship was genuine and enduring. Vivian also took immense pride in being part of television history, something she understood even while they were making it. I Love Lucy wasn't just entertainment, it was innovation that changed how television was made. The show's technical advances, from the revolutionary 3-camera setup to the groundbreaking decision to incorporate real-life events like Lucille's pregnancy into storylines, transformed the entire medium. While the cast was focused on making audiences laugh week after week, they were simultaneously creating new standards for television production that would influence the industry for decades. Vivian understood that they weren't just making a TV show, they were pioneering a new art form. Years later, Lucille herself acknowledged Vivian's contributions in ways that perhaps weren't apparent during the intense pressure of filming. In a revealing 1986 interview, Lucille admitted that watching reruns of I Love Lucy allowed her to truly appreciate Vivian's performance for the first time. During original production, Lucille had been so focused on her own role in the show's overall vision that she hadn't fully recognized the genius of Vivian's work. Looking back with the perspective of time, Lucille found herself captivated by Vivian's acting, finally seeing what audiences had always recognized: that Ethel Mertz was far more than a supporting character. She was the show's secret weapon, the performer who made everything else work by grounding the comedy in something real and relatable. Understanding Vivian's incredible journey requires looking beyond the show to the remarkable woman who brought such depth to Ethel. Born Vivian Roberta Jones in Cherryvale, Kansas, in 1909, she grew up in a large family that later moved to Independence, Missouri. Her early years were shaped by the rich cultural environment of the American Midwest and the challenges of a strict upbringing that couldn't quite contain her artistic ambitions. From childhood, Vivian was magnetically drawn to performing arts, particularly theater. She would put on shows for family and neighbors, displaying a natural charisma that was impossible to ignore. Her determination to make performing her life's work led her to study drama at the University of Colorado, where she developed the technical skills and artistic discipline that would serve her throughout her career. She began performing professionally in the 1930s, working her way through community theater and repertory companies across the country. These early years were marked by financial struggle, but rich artistic growth as she built a reputation for versatility, impeccable comedic timing, and the kind of stage presence that could command any audience's attention. Her eventual move to Broadway represented the fulfillment of a dream she'd harbored since childhood. Roles in prestigious productions like Music in the Air and The Voice of the Turtle established her as a respected stage actress whose talent was recognized by critics and peers alike. It was this extensive theatrical background that made her uniquely qualified for television work. She understood timing, audience connection, and the discipline required for consistent performance under pressure. When I Love Lucy premiered in 1951, Vivian's portrayal of Ethel Mertz didn't just create a memorable character, it established a new standard for female comedy partnerships on television. Her chemistry with Lucille was undeniable, but more importantly, Vivian brought psychological depth to what could have been a thankless supporting role. Her impeccable timing, expressive facial reactions, and ability to ground even the most outrageous situations in emotional reality made every scene richer. Her work earned her an Emmy Award in 1954, making her the first actress to win for Best Supporting Actress, recognition that validated her contributions to the show's success. The Emmy win was particularly meaningful because it acknowledged that supporting work could be just as vital and skillful as leading performances. Vivian had proven that there were no small parts in television, only small actors. And she was definitely not small in any sense that mattered. Vivian's personal life was as complex and challenging as her professional journey, marked by relationships that reflected the difficulties of balancing career ambitions with personal happiness, in an era when women were expected to choose one or the other. She navigated 4 marriages, each representing different stages of her growth as both an artist and a woman. Her early marriages to Joseph Sheedy Jr. and George Koch were brief chapters during the challenging years when she was establishing her career during the Great Depression. These relationships ended as Vivian's commitment to her art grew stronger, and the demands of building a career made it difficult to maintain traditional domestic relationships. Her third marriage to actor Philip Ober lasted 18 years but was reportedly troubled by his jealousy of her growing success and what sources described as emotional and possibly physical abuse. The relationship became increasingly toxic as Vivian's fame overshadowed his own struggling career, creating a dynamic that was destructive for both of them. Her final marriage to John Dodds, a literary agent and publisher, represented the peace and partnership she had long sought. Dodds was intellectual, supportive, and secure enough in his own accomplishments to celebrate Vivian's success without feeling threatened by it. Their life together in Connecticut represented a quieter chapter away from Hollywood's pressures, proof that it was possible to find love that enhanced rather than competed with professional fulfillment. When cancer claimed Vivian's life at age 70, she was surrounded by love and respect from colleagues and friends who recognized her contributions to entertainment history. Desi Arnaz honored her memory with words that captured her essence. She was not just a talented artist, but a dear friend whose impact extended far beyond her performances. Her family's decision to donate her Emmy Award to the Albuquerque Little Theater symbolized her lifelong commitment to nurturing future performers, ensuring that her legacy would continue inspiring others long after her final bow. Vivian Vance's revelations about I Love Lucy remind us that behind every moment of television magic lie real human experiences, struggles, triumphs, friendships, and sacrifices that give depth to the entertainment we cherish. Her willingness to share both the challenges and joys of her experience gives us a richer understanding of what it took to create one of television's most enduring legacies. The next time you watch Lucy and Ethel's adventures, remember the remarkable woman who brought such authenticity to every scene. Despite the pressures, conflicts, and constraints she faced, Vivian Vance didn't just play a character. She helped define what television comedy could be, leaving us with laughter that continues to echo through generations. What strikes you most about Vivian's journey behind the scenes? How do her revelations change the way you view this classic show? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this look behind the curtain fascinated you as much as it did me, hit that like button and subscribe for more untold stories from television's golden age.